And we now have a recorded vote pending on the House floor. I'm going to ask my questions, and then we'll declare a brief recess, and we'll ask our witnesses to stay with us pending the return of members. It shouldn't take very long. We just have one recorded vote to respond to. Let me ask any of the witnesses who want to respond, because several of you mentioned this during the course of your testimony. Several of you have talked about your reliance on the major carriers, Verizon and AT&T, for the special access lines that connect facilities, and you depend upon those lines to connect your facilities. And you've talked about various ways that that problem might be addressed. One possible way to address it is to apply for stimulus funds under the Economic Recovery Act. And there is language in that act that specifically makes middle-mile services eligible as a target for grant-making under the law. So my question to those who have that concern is, are you planning to apply for stimulus funding for these middle-mile links? Mr. Schieber, let's begin with you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sprint's position is, we are closely monitoring that legislation as the terms that are in that legislation are defined, and if depending on how those terms are defined, unserved, underserved, rural, backhaul, etc., we may very well apply for those funds. It's unclear at this point until there's more clarification.
Well, let's assume that the criteria make it possible for you to apply, and should you be awarded the grants, would enable those grants to be useful in addressing your middle mile needs. Would you then apply?
We may very well. Again, I will tell you that our friends from Fiber Tower on the panel here, are the experts in providing wireless backhaul services. And in all honesty, we may look to someone like Fiber Tower.
All right. Well, let's ask Mr. Portolanca that same question.
Sure. Thanks for the question, Mr. Chairman. Special access or middle mile, as we've called it. In terms of creating alternatives there, we have to build other types of facilities-based networks. We cannot resell this stuff. You have to actually invest capital to actually build networks so that various end-user networks actually have options, much like we've talked about options. And
well, but Mr. Portolanca, would you rely to some extent, if it's available, on stimulus funds in order to help you make that investment?
Absolutely. Our technology and what we do is very well suited to actually building these types of networks, and we fully expect that, depending on the rules, we would actually apply.
Okay, that's good. One of the subjects that interests me is possible barriers that might exist to the siting of additional transmitters by carriers on structures that are already in existence, to which transmitters are already attached. And within the general category of tower siting, where I understand there are a number of tensions between the local governments that have decision-making authority with regard to this and the carriers that want to site towers, it strikes me that that is one discrete area in which, if it truly is a problem, we might be able to offer some ready solutions. And so let me just ask the question. Where you've got a circumstance where there is an effort and an application to attach an additional transmitter to a tower to which other transmitters are already attached, is there resistance on the part of local governments today to rapidly processing those applications? Are you experiencing that problem? Mr. Portolanca or others?
Sure. I mean, we certainly experience, zoning or permitting delays and costs associated.
That specific example, if you could answer that, please.
With a specific example?
Yes, that specific example.
Sure. I mean, we have several instances in, the northeastern states where our applications do take a long time.
This is an example, and let me state it again, where a tower already exists, transmitters are already attached to that tower. The application is to attach an additional transmitter to that tower, already containing other transmitters. In that instance, do you know instances where delays are being experienced and those applications are not being rapidly processed?
Absolutely. We attach transmitters to existing sites, existing towers. We don't install new towers. And so that's exactly what we face.
All right. Do others have examples, Mr. Schieber?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we experience the same thing at Sprint, that whether it's a new site or an existing site, there are often delays in getting zoning approvals from the local authorities.
What's the appropriate remedy for that in your mind? And please turn your mic on.
Sorry, I apologize. From our perspective, I think something like a shot clock that encourages the local zoning authorities to make a decision quickly and not stretch the time frame out over many, many years, which is what we experience sometimes, would be very helpful.
All right. I have some additional questions, but I'm going to interrupt those so that we can respond to our recorded vote on the floor. And this subcommittee will stand in recess. I would encourage members to come back as quickly as they voted so we can continue our questioning. And we'll ask for the patience of our witnesses until we return.